Okay, students, what we have here is going to be a very brief demonstration of how to apply the Symmetry modifier and a little bit of how it works, its basic setup, and then a quick demonstration on how we can use this to set up a simple low poly character, just kind of a freehand modeling style, but also be able to monitor the results of a subdivision. We're going to use a clone as a reference and apply some modifiers, and that'll get us started with a very basic, easy way to set up a low poly character. All right, so just a brief demonstration of the highlights of the Symmetry modifier. What I have here to begin with is just a regular plane. I put it at 100 by 100 width, and I placed it on the origin. Whenever you're using symmetry, it's good to think in symmetrical terms. So you always know that one half is going to equal the other half, or with the symmetry modifier, you can actually mirror things in multiple directions. So I like to work at the origin because the origin is where the pivot is for this object, or when the pivot is at the origin and you apply the symmetry modifier, the mirror axis snaps to the gizmo or the pivot in this case. So I know exactly where my symmetry is going to occur when I'm using the origin. And later, this will help me kind of measure new positions of things as I start to model with a little bit more detail going in. So from here, the first thing that you need to do is actually convert your plane to something editable. So either an edit poly modifier, or you can do the convert to edit poly, which I'll do here. This is going to ensure that I have access to all the parts that this plane is made of now. So the history of it being a plane has gone away. That's because I did the conversion. The alternative would be that you could use the modifier. Next, we can go ahead and add the symmetry modifier. And by default, it is on planar, but you have the option to make it radial. Radial is going to include options for how many counts that you want, and it's going to divide your mesh up for you by 360 degrees, and the copies will happen there. That can be very helpful. But the basics would be a planar mirror or planar symmetry, and that's going to be more linear. It's going to go basically positive and negative directions on each of the axes. Now you can indicate which axes you want to mirror across, and you can indeed activate multiple. Okay. The reason why this disappears is because I have a plane which is only two-dimensional. So when the Z is activated, there's no geometry, there's not enough geometry to show. So just be mindful of that. But we'll start with one axis. Okay. And this kind of yellowish, bright orange highlight here, this plane, represents where the mirror is. The mirror is the element of the position basically that determines where the reflection of your object is going to happen. So if I keep moving this away from my object, you can see that I get kind of a duplicate geometry here. Okay. If you can imagine standing in front of a mirror, this would be where the wall or the mirror is hanging, and then this would be where your reflection shows up. Okay, so I'm gonna, because I know this is at the origin, I can just snap this back. That's very helpful. So the main thing to understand is that symmetry is not a modifying, it's not a modeling modifier. So none of these things will directly change your mesh, but it will change the results prior to its position in the modifier history. So we use this in conjunction with surface modeling techniques so that we can basically cut our work in half. It's a big boost in efficiency, and it's also helpful when you have things that are supposed to be mostly symmetrical or exactly symmetrical. So right now I have deactivated the show end result option, this toggle. When it is off, whatever level of your modifier stack will be will be reflected in the viewport. If you have it on, then all the way whatever is at the very top, it goes all the way through your history. So sometimes I turn this off so that we can see what's happening in the actual model, and then turn it back on to see what the result of the symmetry would be. So again, symmetry doesn't give you any control over your mesh, so you have to use the edit poly layer of your modifier stack. So now I can activate some of my subgeometry, start moving it around, and you can see how the reflections work across that mirror line. Okay, now something you'll notice here is when I move this up and down, I get this weird kind of pinch and flap thing going on. This is because the line here that you see is kind of imaginary. This is just created by the position of the mirror, because again, in actuality, this is the object that I'm working on, and there's no edge here. There's no segment separation. So I could go back and either add a line manually, and what I do a lot is actually cut this in half and just work on one half. I'll demonstrate that real quick. So I'm going to undo the reposition of those vertices. I'm going to use the connect tool. So I select two edges in edge mode, and then I'm going to activate connect, and that's going to give me a perpendicular line between the two selected edges. So now I actually have an edge that's in my geometry that matches exactly where the mirror for my symmetry modifier is. Okay, so now because there's a vertex and there's two vertices, and the edge actually stops at that point. Turn this on. I'm going to turn off my ISO line display and show cage. So now when I select the vertex, you can see that it is anchored at that intersection. And one last thing, I'm going to turn off the effects of symmetry temporarily just to show you I can delete one half now of my object, and when I turn symmetry back on, it appears to be whole again. This is kind of a better way to work, just to make sure that you're not making geometry that's going to give you complications across the mirror axis there. Okay. So the main options for symmetry include just which direction the mirror axis is going. That's the direction of your symmetry, and you can flip it. So this has disappeared now because there's no geometry on the other side of the x direction of the mirror axis. Okay, so that is one drawback if you do literally cut your mesh in half. So be mindful of how the flip may affect that. And again, you can operate on multiple axes. Just keep in mind, when you have symmetry active, sometimes even though you can see the sub-objects, you cannot select them. That's because the symmetry is creating what you see in the viewport, but you have to be mindful of where the actual geometry is. Okay, so that's just some guidelines with the symmetry modifier. Go ahead and get rid of my example here, come back to my grid, and what I'm going to do here is quickly go through the steps just with a box this time. I'm going to set up a simple rig, or it's not a rig, just a simple workflow for using the Symmetry modifier and attaching it to a cloned object so that I can further modify one version of the same mesh. So similar workflow to what we just did with the plane. I'm going to create the box. I'm going to convert it to an editable poly. This time I'll use the modifier, so I'm just going to add an edit poly modifier. Okay. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate. So I'm holding shift, I'm just going to drag over my clone, and I'm going to make it a reference. I'm going to call this subdivided. Okay, and I can name this just my base object. Now we make it a reference so that this can be independently modified. In this case, I'm going to put the Symmetry modifier on this as well as a turbo smooth modifier, and that's going to provide the symmetry. Obviously that's going to make the work cut in half that I have to do, and then the turbo smooth modifier is going to subdivide that result. Okay, so it looks a little silly right now, but what this is going to allow me to do is kind of track the results of my subdivision and smoothing, which is going to give me a nicer topology and a nicer finish on my surface. The smoothing aspect and the edge details that you get with Turbo Smooth are more desirable than the sharp, harsh edges that you see from other primitive geometry. So now, when I make updates to my model, I can see them reflected in the reference clone and also see the results of Turbo Smooth. For simple characters, I often like to start with modeling the bottom of the object. So I start with the feet. And in this case, I'm going to use a trick that separates the geometry here into two pieces. So because I'm working with the subgeometry, it doesn't impact the object level directly. So the pivot of this object, the original position, is still intact. So if I leave my sub object, you can see that the pivot is still in the middle and the geometry is moved over because on the sub object level is where I'm operating. Okay, so the pivot for this is the same, and that means for the duplicate, the position of the mirror for the symmetry modifier is the same. So I'm just duplicating the geometry, reflecting across that mirror here. And in my original, I'm just working still on half of what the end product will be. And from here, I like to use just a box modeling technique that allows me to just quickly grab the sub-objects and kind of start moving them around the way I want, using some of the features for quick extrusions, like just holding shift and dragging away with the move tool activated. And you can see as I go, the mesh on the far side is reacting. So if I want to retain some of the sharp corners, the original needs to have edges that support the angles that I want to keep. So I'm going to add a small extrusion there, and that creates an edge loop that goes all the way around, and it keeps that shape for me a little bit. You can do the same thing here. I'm going to add a couple of parallel lines using my connect command, and the edge selection mode. So I selected parallel edges first, then I activated connect and chose 2 new segments to come in. And another helpful thing is my constraints here. I can activate edge constraints, and that's going to allow me to push that new edge loop all the way to the existing edge without distorting. Here, I'll show you what that looks like without the constraint. So if I pull it all the way, it goes through the geometry and I start seeing errors with my normals. Okay, I want to make sure that that's reset first, and I'll turn on my edge and do the same motion, and you can see it locks in on that edge, and it only goes as far as the pre-existing geometry, and then I just ease it back this way. Okay, and what that does is keeps the turbo smooth from over rounding. Okay, you can do that in multiple directions here. So just doing the ring selection to get my parallel lines, and then the options that I put in for connect stay, so 2 segments, can confirm that. Make sure that my constraints are on. Push this forward, slide it back, and then push this to, I'm going to undo, Control Z. Just double clicking to select the ring there, or actually, sorry, that's the loop. Double click is the loop for edge loops. And I'm going to push it all the way there so it conforms perfectly to that same angle, and then I'll bring it back. And what you see here is going to be more retention on those angles that I might want to retain to keep a certain shape. So undo. You see there that my vertices were starting to move in a really strange way. That's because of the constraints, so be mindful of that. Go back to just moving these around. Just a good practice when you're using this technique. You add the supporting edges last. Try to block out your overall shapes first, and then go back in and refine it with more edges as you go. Okay, so give that a try and see how you like building the low poly and watching the results of the subdivision through the clone. Thanks for watching.